On today's primetime local news, a crime meeting held Friday in Marshall asking for the community's opinion.
Laws and rules need to change, and we need more police officers and more communication amongst everybody.
And the Alberta government is introducing a sale tax on vaping products.
Youth are very susceptible to pricing, and so if the price increases, that less youth are likely to start.
And an event held celebrating Black History Month in Lloydminster. Plus, one Lakeland Rustler senior played her final home game.
It just really hit me like that's the last league in ever.
Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
When more information came out regarding the coronavirus a few months ago, face masks around the world began to sell out. Now more doctors are telling people to only buy masks if it's necessary. This video put out by the World Health Organization is giving tips for when to use the mask and proper hand hygiene. Even certain stores around the border city have their masks sold out.
We run out of the mask and we are still in the searching to find the wholesaler and get it for you, but it's right now it's pretty much really hard to get the mask in the market because of the crisis happened with the coronavirus. So we can able to help you out, but we are still looking into that one, how we can get it or not.
Patel says masks aren't necessary for those living in this area, but recommends having sanitizer on hand, and if you are sick, stay home.
At this moment in Canada, there is no crisis about the coronavirus, particularly in Alberta province and particularly in the Lloydminster region and around the area. But if you do travel out of country, I do recommend you to wear the mask because we never know how the people will travel from at the airport, from which destination they are coming and they are going.
Sunrise Pharmacy, Shoppers Drug Mart, and others are currently sold out of masks, but hoping to get more in the next few weeks. A crime information meeting was held Friday night at the Marshall Community Center where the public's voice could be heard. Shelby Clark has more.
Residents of Britannia and RM of Wilton got the opportunity to get together and share about the challenges they have around rural crime in their province. They got to hear from the local RCMP detachment, their MLA, their MP, and the provincial court system.
I expected people to express their frustration with regards to response times from RCMP, with regards to the court system, with regards to not strong enough legislation being proposed in order to protect citizens.
Citizens got up to voice their concerns and asked the panel about what they will change to help solve these issues in the future.
I've been in this area 6 years and an officer for 17, and I don't see any end in sight, and it's sad that way. Laws and rules need to change, and we need more police officers and more communication amongst everybody and more understanding of what the underlying social issues are that are driving a lot of these criminal behaviors.
They believe crime has escalated significantly over the past 3 years, and the public's biggest frustration has to do with the court system failing to keep criminals in jail. Colleen Young explains what changes have been made with help from the government of Saskatchewan.
The government of Saskatchewan has invested into supporting the local RCMP by retraining and arming our wildlife officers and our highway traffic patrol guys and putting a provincial response team in place and assisting their crime response team as well.
Some points the RCMP went over in the meeting was what the public can do to protect themselves, for residents to keep communication with each other, and what needs to improve to reduce crime.
If you got the communication of it and you're letting your neighbor know, hey, this is what's going on, or if you know your neighbor's going to be going away because they've let you know, stay off social media. Don't put it on Facebook that, hey, I love my trip in Miami or Mexico. Because these criminals, that's what they're watching. They're watching to see who's away, who's gone somewhere.
After this meeting, everybody hopes to see some changes being made in the future.
But we still have significant challenges, and we need to have that open and conversation around where we're failing within the system in order to protect our citizens.
Shelby Clark, Primetime Local News.
The government of Alberta has announced a new vape tax as part of its 2020 budget, installing a 20% levy on vaping products. Eric Bay has more on local groups' reaction to the tax.
Alberta's vape tax is aimed at reducing use among youth, with young people vaping at an increasing rate over the last few years.
New research has come out of the US, so I expect it to be similar to what we would see in Canada. But for every one adult that uses vaping products to quit smoking tobacco products, we have 80 youth starting to vape. And so we have a significant work to do to educate youth that it's not just a harmless water vapor, that there's nicotine in it. Kids are using a higher nicotine percentage as well.
The Lloydminster Area Drug Strategy believes the new tax is a good start to reducing the amount of youth using the products.
We know that youth are very susceptible to pricing, and so if the price increases, that less youth are likely to start, or they'll reduce the amount that they're using. So we're very happy about the 20% tax on vaping products.
Now the group hopes to see vaping laws that follow tobacco legislation, only allowing vaping in designated areas and keeping flavored vape products like this off the shelves.
The other thing that is significant, we had a ban on flavored tobacco products that came from youth in Lloydminster, and we want to ban the sale of flavored vaping products. We know that those slick devices, along with those flavors, are really a marketing campaign towards youth and not towards adults who may use the product.
Health Canada stats say 1 in 5 students between grades 7 and 12 have used vaping products in the last month. The tax will cover all vaping devices and accessories. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
As February came to a close over the weekend, so did Black History Month. Community leaders gathered to recognize the contributions of Black Canadians at an event on Saturday. It was the second time a Black History Month event was held in Lloydminster. The grandson of the first Black settlers in the area came to share his family's personal story and the history of the Shiloh Church near Maidstone.
Lloydminster here is very close to Maidstone, where the Black people settled as settlers in from 1909, and there was a very big Black community there, and so we had actually Leander Lane, who is the grandson of the first settlers, who has come to be our guest speaker today.
The event grew in size from the previous year, and organizers were happy to have representatives from all 3 levels of government in attendance. Organizers hope they can host more events in Lloydminster next February.
Because we hope next year to do some presentation in the schools in different communities, to put more than just one event, because the whole month of February is dedicated as a Black History Month.
In this week's retrospect, our Abbey St. John goes back to 2002, where Lloydminster School had its grand opening, plus a Meadow Lake organization to open its doors to help those in need.
After making major renovations to accommodate more students, E.S. Laird Middle School had its grand opening.
Music filled the gymnasium as E.S. Laird Middle School held its grand opening ceremonies this afternoon. The school underwent renovations to accommodate an increase in student population and now has a brand new look.
What we added was a brand new gymnasium, our administration area, our student common area, and we renovated the old gymnasium into a stage, a new band room, a seminar room, a new computer room. We also renovated our old library into a much larger, newer library, totally refurnished. We renovated the old art room into a new special education area and a seminar room, and we renovated the old band room into a brand new art room. As well, we redid all the flooring throughout the school and the lighting, and it gives it certainly a brand new face.
Also in 2002, a Meadow Lake organization opened its Door of Hope to give help to those in need.
A Meadow Lake organization is opening the Door of Hope to many needy locals.
Our Door of Hope started about 10 years ago, and we saw some needs for people just on the street in our town, how we could just welcome them in and give them a cup of coffee, and that's sort of how the serving food started. And people came in, and we found more and more people came, and we were able to look after them.
Thanks to a local grocery store, Door of Hope Services has now grown from pre-packaged food bags to an actual food bank.
It started with the Meadow Lake Co-op offering to do a Goodbye to Hunger program with us, where individuals in our community could come in, purchase prepackaged bags, and then the Door of Hope would provide a tax donation receipt for that, and then we would distribute the bags to people in need. So when we started with that, that was kind of what sparked us into, well, maybe we should look into a full-time food bank.
For this week's Retrospect, I'm Abby St. John.
Retrospect is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Webb's Machinery, your New Holland dealer in Vermilion, Bakerville, and Lamont.
Now to our Abby St. John with the weather.
Thanks, Jasmine. It's currently 0 here in Lloydminster. A little bit of cloud coverage. We did see some stormy weather earlier today, which cleared off by early this evening. We will have a little bit more cloud coverage overnight, as there is a chance that we could see some snowfall after midnight tonight, and then possibly about 2 centimeters tomorrow during the day. Winds coming out of the west-northwest at 17 kilometers per hour. Across Saskatchewan, 1 out in North Battleford, -1 in Meadow Lake, and 0 in Prince Albert, Melfort, and Saskatoon. And then on the Alberta side, 1 out in Cold Lake, 3 in Athabasca and Jasper, 4 in Edmonton and Edson, 6 in Rocky Mountain House, -2 in Red Deer, and +2 out in Whitecourt. And then overnight in North Battleford, the temperature will drop to -9, and there's about a 60% chance that they could experience some snowfall starting tonight and into tomorrow, with a daytime high of +2 and the wind coming out of the west at 11 kilometers per hour. In Cold Lake overnight, the temperature will drop to -18, and that wind will be coming out of the west at 13 kilometers per hour. There's a 60% chance of snowfall starting tonight and continuing tomorrow, with a daytime high of +4, with the wind coming out of the west at 22 kilometers per hour. And then here in Lloydminster overnight, the temperature will drop to -7, and that wind will be coming out of the west at 17 kilometers per hour, and then possible periods of snow starting after midnight tonight. And then tomorrow we have a daytime high of +2, with the wind coming out of the west at 22 kilometers per hour, which will make that +2 feel closer to -10 with that wind chill, with a low of -7 and a 61% chance of snowfall tomorrow. On Wednesday, a mix of sun and cloud with a 62% chance of snow, with a high of 0, which will feel closer to -14, and a low of -6. And then on Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of -1, which will feel closer to -11, and a low of -10. That is a look at your 3-day forecast. We'll have more news coming up after the break.
While hockey seasons are winding down and the teams involved are starting to dwindle, there are still some in the hunt for a championship ring. The Lloydminster Bantam AAA team is part of that select few, and they started their second round of playoffs this weekend. After a regular season that saw the team end first in their division and have the best goals against in the North, the Bobcats took on the Spruce Grove Saints. Spruce Grove sat 3 positions lower in the standings, almost having a .500 record. The Lloyd boys swept that series and started their second round matchup on Sunday against Leduc Oil Kings. Lloyd won that game 3-1 and continues that series tomorrow night. The Rustlers women's basketball team finished their final regular season weekend off in style with 2 wins and a ceremony for 5th year Brianne Hergott. Josh Ryan has more on the Humboldt native's journey from a depth player to team leader.
Brianne Hergott's final home game featured the usual, plenty of points, rebounds, and hustle. There were also plenty of tears as she said goodbye to the program after 3 solid seasons.
As soon as I got subbed off, it just really hit me like that's the last league in ever. So just a tough pill to swallow, really. So yeah.
Hergott quickly became a fan favorite in Lloydminster for her grit on the floor and personality off of it.
I just think of Bree busting her butt all the time, never complaining, at least not to me.
Her dynamic with Coach Chris King didn't start out on the right foot when he initially recruited her.
Broke my heart last second, told me she was going to Lethbridge College. I will not lie, I was very pissed about this.
I'm really happy that he was willing to take me after doing that to him, but yeah.
After 2 years at Lethbridge College, which included a national championship in 2017, Hergott had to quickly adjust to a bigger role with the Rustlers, eventually embracing her status as a leader.
The way that she came into our program after not playing so much and stepping into a big role her first year, and now the last 2 years being a leader, starting every game, one of the best post players in the conference. So I'm really proud of the 3 years we've had together, and I'm really proud of the person she's become. She's matured a lot over these last couple of years and kind of finding her way in life, which is a cool thing to see.
King believes her time here at Lakeland will pay dividends down the road for the team's younger players.
I can tell the freshmen look up to her, especially Leafers. They're kind of very similar players, so just having her around is that older influence and is very settling for a coach, so I will miss that a lot about her.
There's plenty of memorable moments to look back on, including the program's first medal last season. However, Hergott says only one thing will truly stand out.
Just having them around all the time. Yeah, just constant, like your best friends just beside you all the time. I made so many friends and just experiences. Yeah, I would never, just love it. I'd do it again if I could.
Josh Ryan, Primetime Local Sports.
The Rustlers take on the Lethbridge Kodiaks in the ACAC quarterfinals Thursday afternoon. Well, if you like shoveling, then our Abby St. John has some good news for you. Let's throw it over to her.
Thanks, Evan. And if you do like shoveling, well, you're going to be shoveling a lot more tomorrow, as we do have some chance of about 2 centimeters of snow to fall here in Lloydminster, as well as in a lot of other regions. 60% chance of snow in Cold Lake and the surrounding area, and on the Saskatchewan side as well, down in North Battleford, has that 60% chance of snowfall as well, as is a lot of the region. Heavier cloud coverage and heavy chances of snow overnight tonight. Current temperature 0 here in Lloydminster, 0 also in St. Walburg and Pearceland, -2 in Isle Cross and Meadow Lake, 1 in Green Lake, Maidstone, North Battleford, and +3 in Macklin. And then on the Alberta side, 1 in Cold Lake, Bonnyville, St. Paul, and Vegreville, 3 in Vermilion and Provost, and up in Lac La Biche, 2 in Marwayne, and 4 out in Edmonton. And then tomorrow, a daytime high of 2 here in Lloydminster, as well as in Wainwright, Marwayne, and St. Paul, 3 in Provost, Vermilion, Vegreville, Edmonton, and Bonnyville, and 4 in Lac La Biche and Cold Lake. And on the Saskatchewan side, 1 up in Isle Cross and St. Walburg, 2 in Green Lake, Meadow Lake, Maidstone, and North Battleford, 3 in Macklin, and 4 in Pearceland. Overnight across the region, Meadow Lake, Isle Cross, Pearceland, Bonnyville, Unity, Provost, Murnum, and Wainwright experiencing some snowfall overnight tonight, and then heavier cloud coverage in Paradise Hill. -8 in Meadow Lake and Pearceland, -9 in Isle Cross, Paradise Hill, and Unity, -7 in Bonnyville, -4 in Provost, and -5 in Murnum and in Wainwright. And then your school day forecast for tomorrow at 8 a.m. It'll be -4 with a mix of sun and cloud, which will be the trend up until lunchtime. At recess, it'll be -1, and then warm up to +1 at lunch, where the sun will make a bigger appearance. However, by the time school is out, the clouds will have taken over, and it'll be around +2 with a low of -7 and a 61% chance of snow. On Wednesday, a 62% chance of snow with a high of 0 and a low of -6. -1 is the high on Thursday with a low of -10 and a mix of sun and cloud. On Friday, a high of 0 and a low of -5. Just so your weekend off on Saturday, a high of -12 and a low of -17. On Sunday, will be a high of -14 and a low of -19. And then back on Monday, a high of -6 and a low of -21 with a mix of sun and cloud. That is a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more news in the question of the day coming up after the break.
Our question of the day today has to do with the fact that March is actually Women's History Month, which we both learned today, which is actually a very cool thing because, you know, we just celebrated Black History Month, so now we are on to Women's History Month. And we were saying before in the last hour that a lot of women can be very influential in your life from pretty much day one.
Yeah, 100% with your mom. She's the first person that you trust when you're born. You know, she's there. She just went through intense pain to get you there, but she did it. And, you know, she's definitely the first person that you put your trust into because she's probably the first person that you open your eyes and you see when you're born. So, you know, it's your mom and then, you know, your grandma and then your aunts and or siblings and stuff. And you're exposed to all these women in your life, and hopefully, not all the time, but hopefully they're that beacon of motivation and inspiration for you throughout the rest of your life.
And I know now for a lot of people, there's more people that you come up seeing on TV and movies, and that can also be a big influence in somebody's life because you never know, you might be watching a movie and that person just really inspires you to be better and become someone else.
Exactly. You know, you don't have to be related or know the woman personally to be inspired by them or to look up to them as your idol and stuff. So celebrities are a big one because they have that forum to talk about issues like that on a grander scale, and to, you know, they spend their entire careers being so vulnerable and, you know, telling their truth and their story in hopes that it will inspire young girls or young people to follow that way and to, you know, say that you're not alone and you're not the only one that goes through it. And that can be super inspiring, especially to young girls.
And I think now more than ever, we're seeing more women speak out and giving their side of things. They're coming out with their perspective. And I think it's really great to have someone like that out there, even if it may not be your family that you're trusting on.
Yeah, exactly.
But now we are going to be taking a look at your pet pictures. So thank you to everyone who submitted, and we will be giving away a Pet Pad gift card on Friday.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
Taking a look at the sports world, joining me is Eric Bay. We're going to kick things off talking NHL playoff picture, where for once in who knows how long, there's quite a few Canadian teams who are actually involved and actually have a shot of going somewhere with this, especially in that Pacific Division.
Yeah, definitely that West. I don't think we have seen kind of that type of, you know, problems there in the West, just from the fact that they all are so close right there, obviously. And, you know, from the Vancouver Canucks, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Calgary Flames, that West have been pretty bad. So it's pretty cool to see, obviously, at this point in the season. And it's going to be very tough here down to the wire, just 2 points apart. A few games in hand for the Canucks and Oilers over the Flames. So it's going to be tough there for the Flames to catch up. But I do think for them, it'll just be about, you know, putting that effort every night and especially getting better at home. And the Oilers, you know, they've got a few injuries, but I would say for them, it's also that secondary scoring has still kind of been an issue. You saw the Jets game there, Nugent Hopkins and Draisaitl 3 points. It's got to come from somewhere else other than those big guys.
Now, you mentioned the Calgary Flames there, and they 15 games left in the season, only 4 on the road. For most teams, that sounds great, but like you mentioned, they need to get better at home. What are a couple keys? And I guess, you know, if you can pick 1 or 2 things out that they really need to fix on home ice.
Defense. Their defense still has been pretty spotty here recently as well. A guy like Hanifin has to step up, especially at this point in the season. And again, too, that offense has been kind of spotty, as you mentioned there as well. Gaudreau and Monahan have been stepping up here recently, but it's important for them to continue that and for other guys to also step up as well, because it can't just be Backlund here, who's been very hot recently.
Now, in the East, one Canadian team is in that playoff pictures, being the Toronto Maple Leafs. However, we're going to take a look at a team that isn't even close, I guess, in the Ottawa Senators. with one of their stars, Bobby Ryan, coming back into the lineup and really making a splash in his first game.
Yeah, definitely a bright spot here in this season especially. Obviously not much going well for those Ottawa Senators, but a guy like Bobby Ryan to come back, obviously going through that substance abuse program, had some issues growing up too as well, kind of a tough growing up there. So it's great to see that, the hat trick and the fight in his game back. So hopefully he can continue that momentum and he'll do well from here on out.
Now, Eric, when one of your leaders on your team comes back after missing a significant amount of time and really just jumps in, I guess, especially with the fight showing that he's here for the team, how does that make another teammate feel? And I guess that team chemistry and bonding from that?
Well, I definitely think it's an emotional boost, especially when you are getting down to the last little bit of the season. It's been a long year for the Senators, you could say, just them and the Detroit Red Wings in the basement. So obviously it's great to see that from a perspective of just a teammate seeing that for another teammate, and also, again, that emotional boost here as we go down the stretch and head into the offseason for the Senators.
And then I guess for the Sens, just adding that touch of scoring also gives them maybe some confidence for the future, for next year and whatnot. We're going to talk about more people who have been out from time to time, but this time from injuries, especially with the Edmonton Oilers. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but Mike Green is the newest to add to that list, and I mean, it seems like those problems just keep going on and on for the Oilers.
Yeah, sprained MCL there for Mike Green, out 3 to 4 weeks, and it's always tough when that deadline acquisition goes down in the first couple games, so that is hard. I mean, obviously it's still kind of a bit of an adjustment, so you didn't know what you were going to get from him as he did come into the team here with the Oilers, but I mean, obviously that is tough to see. He won't be back until probably around playoff time, so obviously tough, but somehow you got to weather it. Obviously, he's just that kind of addition too, so he wasn't in the lineup before. They do get Chris Russell back, so maybe it's kind of evens out hopefully for them.
Now, Mike Green, he's an older guy as well, so it's not like, he's a young buck in his mid-20s that can really just jump back in. How many games do you think this will take for him to get back into the flow, especially that close to playoffs?
Well, yeah, you mentioned that. That's hard to say, especially if he does come back into playoffs. Everybody's going to be going. They'll be buzzing, all that adrenaline pumping. So I feel like that will be good for him. But again, it's just about how fast he can get back and be at that top level. So I think it'll probably take 2-3 game adjustment at least to get up to speed.
And then finally, now to switch gears, I guess, away from NHLers to future NHLers, Ty Smith, the local product, set a Spokane Chiefs franchise record for most points by a defenseman, and he broke his old record. He got 8 points in one game, including a hat trick against the Seattle Thunderbirds. Just a real special player here.
Yeah, I mean, 3 goals in 5 games is a great night for any player, and especially when you tie in the fact that he is a defenseman. Obviously a great way to kind of end the season as they do head into those playoffs, and that's really what he's brought his entire career, is just that offensive bent from the blue line. So he's definitely looking good, and when he turns pro next year, it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, New Jersey really has a bright spot with him.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Once again, talking sports with Eric Bay. This time we're going to switch it over to the turf. And while the NFL season might be over, there's still plenty of action with free agency starting on March 18th. And especially in the quarterback category. You got some young guys, you got some old guys, and just so many different names teams could pick from.
Yeah, definitely a ton of big names here coming up on that quarterback market. I mean, obviously you have the GOAT, Tom Brady. He'll be on there. Drew Brees, not too shabby himself, a great career. Phillip Rivers as well, just 3 of those solid guys. And also you mentioned those young guys, the 1-2 picks in their draft. Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, also Dak Prescott. So tons of options if they do hit the open market, and that is the key. Obviously, still a couple weeks away, and I don't think that Drew Brees or Tom Brady will go anywhere. I know Drew Brees is looking to stay in New Orleans, and there is speculation that Tom may head to Las Vegas, but really, at this point in his career, I don't think it really makes much sense to try and see, who is the one that kind of stirs the drink there, whether it is Belichick or Brady. So I think obviously he's going to stay put, but Phillip Rivers could shake it up. Obviously he's on the outs in San Diego. And again, it all come down to the Cowboys here too. Lots of players to re-sign, and Dak is looking for $30 million plus.
Now Dak is the one name on that list that really jumps out to myself, and especially you just mentioned it with the cap issues that the Cowboys could have, having to re-sign so many different players. What kind of troubles will that make? Especially, Amari Cooper, it's one of his top people he's looking for, it could totally change the dynamic of the team.
Yeah, you mentioned not only a lot of guys, but a lot of big guys who are key pieces. Obviously, Dak is your quarterback, so at this point, you don't have anybody really ready to replace him. He's a big deal, and you mentioned Amari Cooper, a great route runner, the #1 target there, great on those sideline balls, but also on the defensive side, Byron Jones, he's come into his own there on that defense, has kind of become their #1 lockdown corner, so all those guys are going to be looking for some big money, and I mean, Jerry Jones is obviously not shy about spending, but it's all about being able to fit under that cap, and it's going to be tough. I feel like at least one of those guys will have to go.
Now, we've talked about Amari Cooper. What about another wide receiver on this free agency list in A.J. Green? Obviously, the Bengals not doing the greatest the last little bit here, but with potentially getting Joe Burrow, how could this change, and how could, signing A.J. Green would just be huge for their team?
Yeah, he's been big for them ever since he came into the league as a top 5 pick, and he's done exactly what he was supposed to. So it is tough. Again, you mentioned obviously a few down years with Andy Dalton there leading the Bengals, but Joe Burrow coming in potentially here could change that entire face of the franchise, really. But it's all about, does he want to stick around for a potential rebound with that quarterback, or does he want to keep going? Because, it's not just the quarterback that is their issue. They have a ton of parts. Like, you don't lose that many games just on quarterback alone. So, again, tons of different pieces to fix here. So that'll be probably a 2 or 3 year process at least.
Now, for those teams that maybe don't get to sign the players that they quite wanted, the NFL Combine just took place, and there's a couple studs coming out of them, including one Canadian.
Actually, a couple Canadians I want to mention here, but yeah, there's obviously a few people that kind of sparked those eyes here with some great testing, and you look at Chase Claypool playing at the University of Notre Dame from Abbotsford, BC. He really jumped off the board, and he's a guy who showed elite speed, and he's got the package too, that 6'4", 230-pound plus body. So teams are looking for that anyways, but when you flash that speed, obviously that just makes it that much better, because he'll be great for those 50-50 balls against smaller corners. And another guy too is Neville Gallimore, who played DT at Oklahoma, and he's been great throughout his college career and ran a very quick 40, which teams are looking in. 304 pounds up the middle. He's obviously a guy too that could be a day 2, maybe even day 3 option for teams.
Now, when you get a guy that big running that fast at you, I would be pretty terrified myself. I can't even imagine for those NFL quarterbacks. One guy that really stood out for me was punter Michael Turk, who had 25 reps on the bench press, pushing 225 pounds. Lots of linebackers, tight ends, even D linemen don't get the numbers that he put up there.
D lineman, he beat a few O linemen too, are looking to be first round picks here in the draft. So obviously very impressive, and whatever team drafts him might want to change those rules and be better off with him just hucking that ball downfield instead of kicking, because he's got obviously that upper body strength.
Now, I guess with some of those players getting less reps than a punter, how much does that affect their draft stock?
It all depends really on how they test in other areas, I would say, because the linemen that I was kind of thinking of there, that Mekhi Becton and Tristan Wirfs, they ran very fast 40 times, so they do have that athleticism there as well. So I think it all depends, not just the bench press, but how you kind of do it in a whole bunch of different categories and look at the entire day. I don't think it should affect it too much for those guys.
Well, NFL free agency starts March 18th, and I guess we'll see how it plays out for those NFL teams.
Taking a look at your 7-day forecast, a high of +2 and a low of -7 for tomorrow with a 61% chance of snow, a 62% chance of snow on Wednesday with a high of 0, high of -1 on Thursday, back to 0 on Friday, and then things cool off significantly on Saturday and Sunday with a high of -12 on Saturday and -14 on Sunday, and then back on Monday a high of -6 to wrap up your 7-day forecast.
Now, going back to our question of the day, it is Women's History Month in March. It may not necessarily be celebrated in Canada, but in a few countries around the world, and it still is important whether or not it's celebrated a lot here or not. But I think, again, like we were saying before, just having those type of influences in your life can really change things, because without those certain people, you never know what you could have been like or what could have happened.
Exactly. And again, like, you don't have to personally know them. They could be a celebrity, they could be someone famous, but someone that leaves a mark on you is inspiration enough. It doesn't matter who they are. If they leave an impression on you and you look at your life and say, my life was better because of that person, and it doesn't really matter. There's so many women in this world who are so influential and so inspiring that it really doesn't matter if you personally know them or not. If they make an impact on you, then that's perfect.
Yes, I have to agree. Well, thank you for joining us for another edition of Primetime Local News. Have a great night.